everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angel and today I'll be sharing with you some more fun and simple DIYs. Before we get started, as always, don't forget, if you enjoy this video, give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and click the little notification bell so that you won't miss out on any of my future videos.
For this first project, we're going to be making a crystal ball. Dollar Tree now has these little snow globes out for Christmas, and that's what I'm going to be using. I'm also going to be using these little skeleton hands, also from Dollar Tree. The first thing I'm doing is I just have some purple paint that I watered down, and I'm just taking a paintbrush and kind of swirling this all around the little snow globe. I also added in a little bit of black paint, and again, I'm just taking my wet paintbrush and kind of swirling that around as well. I also decided to add a little bit of purple glitter, but of course this is totally optional. And I've also seen people paint these with a green color instead of purple. For my crystal ball, I'm just adding in some of these LED pumpkin lights that I also got from Dollar Tree, just because it's what I had on hand. It would also look great with maybe some purple lights as well. And then here I painted those little skeleton hands black, and now I'm just going to hot glue those around my crystal ball. You'll also notice I painted the little lid black as well. For this next project, we're going to be using one of these little display bottle cases from Dollar Tree, some of this Spanish moss. I also am going to be using this wood bead. You can, of course, use any little ball shape that you want. And also, I'm going to be using this wood dowel rod from Dollar Tree. And I'm using a piece of an old sheet that I had laying around. You can use a napkin or really anything that's white material. They also have crafters felt, and you can get that in white and use that as well. The first thing I'm doing is I'm just cutting that little square from the white sheet that I had, and I'm just trimming that down to kind of fit in to make a ghost. Then here, I'm just taking that dowel rod, I cut it down, and I'm just kind of shoving it in that hole that the bead had. If you're not using a bead, you can just hot glue that down to the bead. Then I'm just going to take that and hot glue it to the bottom of the little case. And here again, I had to trim down my little ghost again, and I'm just kind of trying to fit it over and see how it will look inside. Then I'm taking some of this Spanish moss and I'm going to hot glue that down to the bottom. Then once I have that all complete, I put my little sheet back over to make my ghost. And here I'm just kind of hot gluing the bottom of that sheet down to the Spanish moss to shape my ghost. I also picked up some of these cinnamon scented pine cones from Dollar Tree, and they come with these cute little pumpkins, so I decided I was going to hot glue some of those little pumpkins down inside of this with my ghost. Then I just took some of my black paint and I drew his little eyes and mouth. And for the final little step here, I have some of these little skulls from Dollar Tree, and I just took and painted one of those black, and then I'm going to hot glue it to the top of my little ghost case. For this next project, we're going to be making another one of those, but this time we're going to be using these skeletons and some of these butterfly wings that I picked up a really long time ago. But I'm just going to make these skeletons into little fairies. I picked these little skeletons up from Dollar General. They were just $1, but also Dollar Tree does carry them as well. So the first step, as you can see here, I'm just hot gluing these little wings to the backs of my skeletons. And again, I'm going to be using one of these skeleton heads, but this time I painted it white, and then I'm just taking some of my Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm kind of going to rough that up over top of it to make it look kind of like a little rock. Then again, I'm using some more of this Spanish moss, and I'm just going to hot glue that down. And then on top of that, I'm going to hot glue my little skull down, and I'm going to start working on my skeletons. For this one, I did have to do a little surgery again on my skeletons, and I just kind of hot glued his legs in the pose that I wanted. I wanted him on his knees and then with his hands on top of that little skull. And again, I'm just going to hot glue him down to that moss and then hot glue his hands down onto the top of that skull. I also decided to add in some more of those little pumpkins to my skeletons as well. Once I had him all finished, I started working on my other skeletons, and I wanted them to appear like they were kind of flying around or trying to help this little skeleton escape. So all I did was remove their legs, and then I'm going to hot glue them back into the position that I want them in. Then I'm just going to hot glue his hands down to the top of this little casing. And here I'm just working on the second skeleton, but I'm going to do the exact same for him as well. This project is super easy. All you need is one of these Dollar Tree candle holders and one of their skulls. I got this one from Dollar General, but of course you can get them at Dollar Tree as well. All I did for this project was I spray painted my little skull and then also spray painted that candle holder. I just did the bottom side of it in a matte black paint. Then I'm just kind of smushing the top of his skull down so that I can sit my little plate on top of it, and we're going to make a candle holder. I am just using some hot glue here, but I also did use E6000. I would highly recommend using E6000 or maybe some of Dollar Tree's gel super glue because you want this to not fall over, and I just wanted to make sure that it was sturdy. This next project is also going to be a candle holder. At the time that I made this, Dollar Tree didn't have these skeleton hands yet. I made this actually back in August, but I have seen these little skeleton hands in Dollar Tree more recently. But in case you can't find them, I found this one at Dollar General. I'm also going to be using this little wood plaque that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to give it 2 coats of my black paint. Now for my skeleton hand, I've seen people do this several different ways, but I just started out by cutting the fingers off at the last knuckle on the hand, and then we are going to just hot glue these back on to look like they are holding a candle. For my first finger, I went ahead and I cut it twice, but you really don't need to do that. It kind of curves just perfectly if you hot glue it a certain way. I'm also filling in the knuckles with some hot glue, and you'll see that later. So here I'm just continuing to put those fingers back on, but I'm hot gluing them in a way that it makes the hand look curved. And as you can see right here, I'm just taking some of that hot glue and I am filling in the knuckles where I had cut the fingers off. And I'm doing that just because I think it looks a lot better. And here I'm going to go ahead and paint over my whole hand with some of my white chalk paint. And you're not going to be able to see that hot glue. It just kind of makes it look like the hand is whole still. I actually liked the way the hand looked before I painted it, but I just painted it to cover that hot glue up. And then to rough it back up, I just took some of my antique wax and went over the hand. Then all that's left to do for this little candle holder is glue that skeleton hand to the plaque that we painted. And I did use hot glue and the gel super glue from Dollar Tree because I wanted this to be really sturdy. For this next project, I'll just be using some of these little pumpkin signs that I got at Dollar Tree. Again, I do make all of my projects pretty much way in advance before I release my videos. So I'm not sure if Dollar Tree still has these. I have seen them probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. But here I'm just going ahead and sanding down these little pumpkin signs because they did have quite a bit of glitter on them. And then I'm just going to paint them with 2 coats of my matte black paint. Then I'm just going to take these poster stickers that I got from Dollar Tree and I am going to spell out boo across these little pumpkins. If you're not able to find these poster stickers, you can of course use a stencil or a Cricut or something like that as well. Then I'm just going to take my little metallic paint pen that I got from Dollar Tree and I'm just going to make some spider webs on these little pumpkin signs. That's really it for this project. It was super simple. You can of course add a bow to these or anything else that you might want to add to these little signs. For this final project, I'll just be using this large skeleton that I got from Dollar Tree. Again, I did pick this up back at the end of August, early September, but they do still have some. I believe they're the glow-in-the-dark ones now, but you can always just paint over it like I did. I painted my skeleton white, and then I'm also using this styrofoam pumpkin. It was one of the orange ones, and I just painted it black. After I painted everything, I'm just removing the lower half of my skeleton's legs because I'm going to hot glue those in a sitting position. I also went back in and used some black paint to fill in his eyes, nose, and kind of rough up his teeth. For the upper half of his legs, I'm just putting some hot glue there and I'm going to like stretch them out a little bit. You can see here how I hot glued his legs back together in the sitting position, and then I just stuck that pumpkin down in between there. Then I just hot glued his hands in the position I wanted them on the pumpkin. I also just took some black construction paper and made this little witch hat for my skeleton. Again, at the time I made this, Dollar Tree didn't have the little witch hats that they have now, but I have seen that they have tiny little witch hats that would work perfectly for this. And the last thing I did was just take some black and orange yarn that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm just wrapping that around my little witch hat and tying a bow. And that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.